Danny Flexen for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren. And Frank, the big news, of course, is that Daniel Dubois against Joe Joyce has a new date. And more importantly for the fans, literally for the fans, I believe that was the tagline on the press release, it's going to be free for BT Sports subscribers. No extra fee, no pay-per-view. What caused you to arrive at that decision?
The virus, the fact that we can't have a live gate. We obviously lost substantial revenue from the O2 because it was nigh on sold out, so we lost that revenue. And the fact there's another 3 pay-per-view shows going on within the course of roughly 3 weeks. So adding one to it, would we do well? I think we would because we had a good fight. Would we do as well as we should have done? I don't think we would because there are too many. So we had to think about the fans and hitting their pockets. And we decided that between us all, that's BT, us, Queensberry, and obviously the most important 2 people, the fighters, that this is the way we would go. We could have postponed the fight again, put it back to next year. I think everybody would have been quite understanding about that. But they insisted they wanted the fight. They feel for them. Both of them feel they're going to win the fight. They're both very confident. They know that I think both of them are actually thinking about the long game as well, that the winner comes through this. It's going to set itself up big time next year for some even bigger fights. So we made a decision and we felt between all of us, it's for the fans, and that's where we are. It's my 40th anniversary on the 1st of December as a promoter, so 28th is 3 days before. So there's a present for the fans from us, and we'll be doing another show on the 5th of December at the Royal Albert Hall, which we'll be announcing as well next week. So it's a busy 7-day period, and we're doing the best we can in the environment to deliver and make sure that the fans get some enjoyment and some value.
What a lot of people will want to know, whether it's their business or not, is how have you managed to make this happen financially? So who's taken the haircut, I guess is the question.
Everybody, except for the fans.
Well, that's good. So both fighters, yourself, BT Sport, have all kind of chipped in to make this happen.
Make it happen, yeah. We made it happen, and it is what it is. We're in this environment, and we made a decision, and between us, and I think it's the right decision to have made at this particular moment. At this moment, I think it's the best. I think it was the best decision to be made for that particular fight.
It's just an interesting thing because we've seen some criticism recently of Matchroom's relationship with Sky in a similar vein, particularly from Bob Arum this week, saying that certain money is not being made available, in his view, from the broadcaster to the promoter to enable fights to happen without pay-per-view. In that sense, are you kind of grateful to BT that they've helped you to make this available without the extra fee?
Well, we've all had to contribute to make it happen. And of course, I'm grateful to BT. They're our long-term broadcast partners. But we've done very few pay-per-view fights on BT, whereas, as you know, on Sky, it's a regular occurrence. I mean, they do a tremendous amount of pay-per-view. But you got to understand the reason they do pay-per-view, so they don't have to dip into their pockets. They're dipping into the fans' pockets. That's how it works. Some fights have to have pay-per-view. It's the only way they can work. I mean, there's no way really you could put Anthony Joshua and Pulev on subscription TV. It's a pay-per-view fight, and everybody would understand that. So I understand that.
So from your point of view, you can't speak for the fighters or BT, but you personally, you're happy to take less money or even lose money potentially on the show to make this happen for the fans and for the fighters.
I'm happy for the fans. I'm not happy to be losing money.
No,
I'm not going to be a liar and say anything different. But we had to make. But Dan, we had to make a decision. You'd sometimes, you make decisions and you do it. I'm very conscious of the situation the world's in at the moment. I'm very conscious how tough it is for people. I'm very conscious that people are losing their jobs, and they are losing their jobs. And as I keep saying, from day one when we started doing these shows under these conditions, we've got to keep the sport relevant. And this, to me, is a fight that will probably the biggest fight going out free to air to keep it relevant for what's involved.
You've already set the two biggest audiences on subscription TV for boxing since the lockdown finished. And, I say finished, there might be further restrictions in future, but we hope not. Do you expect this to break that record and by some distance?
What viewing figures?
Yeah.
Well, look, I don't know. I make no bones about it. I mean, we've had the highest viewing figures since lockdown, and we had the highest figures last year, according to Barb.
Yeah.
I don't rely on Barb. I'm also not going to start saying, "Oh, great, look at the Barb ratings. This is how we done." I know our show's been well received because obviously we got the commitment from BT, and they wouldn't be doing that unless they felt we were delivering. The Barb ratings for me are an antiquated system that was brought into being basically in the days of ITV and BBC and determining what sort of ratings that ITV were getting for their advertisers. But we're talking about subscription CV and so forth now, which is different. And remember, we've got the highest ratings. None of our shows have gone free to air. Sky have been putting their shows out on their free to air channel as well. So we've done extremely well. Sky, that's what it's called, yeah, Sky Sports Mix. So we've done extremely well, and I'm delighted for what we've done and what we've achieved. We put the first men's world title fight on, with Josh Taylor a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Great again. We've not been shy about what we're doing. It's about keeping the sport relevant, but then obviously there's going to come a time, because I don't think this situation is going to change for a long, long time. I really don't. I see this going on March, maybe even longer, until they find a vaccine or a way of letting a substantial amount of fans back into venues. So you've got to live with it. You've got to work around it. And as I say, some fights, for example, with Tyson, Deontay Wilder would have been a pay-per-view fight, the same as Joshua and Pulev. Some of the other fights I don't think are. I mean, for me, Derek Chisora and Usyk, is what it is. Decent fight, but, people have other views on it.
And getting back to the initial question, you would expect Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce to set a new bar for those viewing figures, whether you kind of agree with Barb or not.
Yeah, I think it will. At least I hope it will. The name of whatever happens, the winner of the fight will benefit from it. He'll go to a wide audience. He'll be seen. Everyone will know who he is. And that'll set him up next year. And, and this is what I was pleased with both the guys. They see the benefit of that, and they see that the winner and the loser. If it's a really good close fight, who knows? To come, to the public get to see him. They can see the new kid on the block, whoever it's going to be at the pair of them. The guy going into 2020 who's going to be the standard bearer for the next wave of British heavyweights.
Who was the hardest person to convince, and why was it Sam Jones?
No, everybody. I've got to be honest. Everybody was very pragmatic. Because we have to be. It's not like it is what it is. This is your source of income. This is where the money's coming from. So you want the fight. This is how we're going to make it work between us, and that's what we managed to do.
And you talked about your show on December the 5th to celebrate your anniversary in the sport. Is it likely to be topped by Anthony Yard, Lyndon Arthur, or have you got something else up your sleeve? That
will be is one of that is the fight that fight will definitely, I hope, well, I say definitely, will be on the card, and we'll have that over the line this week. Lyndon's all done and everything. I've not had for some reason Tundi and Anthony and myself not had a chance to sit down properly. We've had some discussions, but we resolved that this week.
Great stuff. And how much does that mean to you personally, a show to mark the time you've spent in the sport?
Well, they're both marking it. They're all within a week of it. That week was the 1st of December, so we got the big sort of heavyweight fight that everybody's been waiting for, all of us, including myself, and we got that on. We've got Daniel and Joe in there, and the following week, how highly I rate Anthony Yard, and Lyndon Arthur is he's done everything that's been asked for him. That's a cracker of a fight too. A really good fight, and we'll be adding some fights to the card. So I'm really pleased with it. We got some good young fighters. I mean, Anthony. I was watching Joe Joyce on Sunday. I don't know if you see the fight. I was watching it, and I'm very. The more I see of it, the more I fancy our man to beat him when it comes off.
We hear the rematch between Denzel Bentley and Mark Heffron could be quite close to getting over the line as well. Is that accurate?
That's done.
Oh, it's done. When's it going to be?
That fight's done. Yeah. We announced that on Monday, but it's 100% done.
Great news. And there was a lot of talk, obviously, about you and Eddie Hearn sitting down. You're probably sick of hearing about it now, but it was delayed further by his dalliance with COVID-19. Unfortunately, we wish him well, obviously. Is that still likely to happen sometime soon?
Yeah, he sent a note saying once he's well, and I'm not going to meet him till he's well. That's for sure. Stay positive. No, I'm really, we're going to get the meeting on. I think I certainly like to do it. I mean, it's become a bit of a boring scratch record now, hasn't it? But it'll happen. I'm quite sure. I think he wants it, and let's just do it. As much as this is really horrible, what's going on in the world, and horrible for boxing and for the fighters, for all concerned, we've got there are some exciting fights that can be made, and if we're all creative between ourselves, we can make them happen and do what we're all about, which is for the fans.
Now, before we let you go, talking about things we do for the fans, a big fan favourite is obviously the big man, the world heavyweight champion, Tyson Fury. And you've said before that he wants to be out this year, regardless of whether the Wilder third fight gets agreed for 2020 or not. What's the latest on that, and could we see him in action before the end of the year?
I very much doubt. It's looking very unlikely that the Wilder fight will happen this year. Tyson wants to fight. He's made it very, very clear. And we're all working hard to see what we can do to make that happen, whether it's Deontay Wilder or somebody else. He wants to get out. Come end of November, December, it's what it'll be. It'll be nearly 10 months out of the ring. And what was so good for Tyson, and what was change for him, not just as obviously becoming world champion and so forth, but so good for his mental health and his welfare, was being busy. And what he's managed to do, I think, is tremendous. To be to be training constantly and working hard. He's committed and dedicated, and he wants to get in the ring and work and perform like he does. So we're all working hard. Everybody involved in his career are all working to make sure, or try and make sure, that happens.
And Fury's now an established pay-per-view fighter on both sides of the Atlantic. So if he is out this year and it's not Wilder, what sort of level of opponent would be acceptable as a pay-per-view, a headline opponent?
Look, it's who's ever around, who you can get, who's in training. That's really what country they're coming from. And if we can do this, I mean, we're in a really difficult situation at the moment. It's not easy. I mean, we've struggled sometimes to find opponents for 6 rounders, and I'm being very honest about that. Not every fighter has managed or can be in the gym training, because their options have been limited. So sometimes it's been difficult. So we've got to first of all establish what the position's going to be as far as Tyson, and what we can do, and then work on what the fight will be. What the objective is to get to next year, to give the fight that the fans all want to see, which is him and AJ.
And you've got a big show on Saturday night on BT Sport as well, headlined by Liam Williams against Andrew Robinson. Should Williams come through that, and he's a big favourite to do so, how far are we from him against Andrade for that world title?
We'll have a very short negotiation period. If we can't agree terms, it'll go to purse bids. That will happen. And he wants it. And what I don't want to happen, I mean, the Border Control have called for this fight on Saturday. It's a mandatory defence, and I don't want it to be a potential banana skin for him, but he's got to come for it in style. And if he does that, he needs now the challenge to be in a big fight. He needs it. He needs to fight an Andrade. And he showed to me in his last fight that he's in that company. I mean, I know he's fought for a world title twice at light middleweight, but he's looking so comfortable at middleweight. And his last win, I thought, was a tremendous performance. He fought the guy who was ranked number one, who had Andrade on the floor in a fight. He was ranked number one, and he just done an absolute job on him. And but for the virus, I think he'd have fought Andrade by now, and I genuinely think he would have beaten him.
Great stuff. Well, Frank, really appreciate your time. I know you've got other people to speak to. You're a very popular man at the moment. Not just at the moment, all the time. That's not
what my wife says.
She's just glad to keep you away doing these interviews, I think.
Just get him out of the way. Yeah. Put him in the shade. Yeah. Not at all, mate.
Great stuff. Speak to you soon.
Look after yourself.
And you. Take
Cheers,
care.
Dan. Thanks, mate.
See you soon.
See you. Bye, mate.